Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Josh, and today we are going to be going over a prolific children's chapter book, and that is The Little Prince. The Little Prince was written and illustrated by Antoine de Saint-Exupery. I probably should have used a better French accent with that one. Because
Do it.
Antoine de Saint-Exupery.
That was very good. Okay.
It's more in the throat, though. Anyway.
Yeah. I have a bit more of the Italy in me than the
Escapade! No. That was terrible.
But this was translated from the French by Catherine Woods.
Yes.
And the discussion starter that I have for this is...
Suspense is killing me.
We're getting there.
No worries, we're still drum rolling.
Do you feel that this book would appeal to its target younger audience, and if so, in what way?
Do you mean its target younger audience now, or
The target, its intended target audience, with the assumption that it is children.
children?
Contemporary children? Or children of the...
You can say either, which take both into perspective.
Okay. I think, I think that it's a silly distinction, right? Because the children of the past, I think, probably loved it, right? Like, it's a classic. It's considered a classic. The children of today, I think, I don't know. You know, with the way media is now, and everything is like nonstop exciting from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they might think it's boring. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think my first reaction would probably be similar to yours, but I'm also trying to picture some classics like The Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched the movie or the book?
I've
I saw the
watched
movie.
much of the movie, but I haven't read the book.
Oh, nice. So I love the movie. Then recently I started reading the book, and the actual Princess Bride the author is based off of an older classic that his dad read to him when he was 10, and then he bought the book for his son when his son turned 10 and didn't realize that the book was actually like hard to read, so then he made a new book called The Princess Bride, which is the classic with all the fun stuff that we know now, but also which I just think is cool. But more importantly is that I feel like it's a story that you might think a kid might not like, but the whole idea of the movie is that it's like a grandpa figure reading this classic to a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
So my first reaction would be that, and I work with kids, so I can't really imagine them reading or listening to it, but then I wonder if there's an element of like magic, like in Princess Bride, when they're just kind of like, I don't know, encapsulated or enchanted by this like kind of strange story. Or they'll be bored and use their Switch.
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't know.
No, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who can predict kids?
Yeah.
I would say on this one, I'm in agreement with Larry with the fact that children of that era, and in particular of that culture, would find it easier to read than the children of today, because this explores so many complex issues, and it doesn't really do anything to wind it down for today's more... It seems like the readers of today are a more sensitive bunch, and they don't... I don't think they are... they don't grasp information as easily and as quickly as they did way back in the day. But I personally found it hysterical, the commentary on the way that we think as adults.
I loved it.
I think he does the way that he ridicules the way that adults are, the way that there are benefits to thinking like a child, and
That old theme again.
yeah, it's there are positives. I mean, that there are things that people should be doing, but I mean, the whole idea that an adult should be asking questions like they should be asking more lighthearted questions as opposed to how old are you, how much do you weigh, but more so, do you like butterflies? Can you draw sheep?
Yeah. No, that, yeah.
But it's... And then another... I liked when the little prince was exploring the different asteroids, and he comes across the king who's just looking to rule for the sake of ruling. Very similar to the way that our government works, where their number one priority is their ability to assert and maintain their dominance. Where if the prince asks the king to sit down, he demands him to sit down. So his demands are so absurd because he only wants to do it to assert. The conceited man, even though the conceited man, I think was very. I think it was very little was devoted to him, but I guess that was necessary. The tippler, who's clearly an alcoholic, businessman, who just counts. He only wants to acquire the stars so that he can count them and maybe sell them for more. It's just
to count more stars.
Yeah,
Just a
count more
commodity,
stars.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to,
The lamplighter who just turns a light on and off, which is very reflective of the fact that people work. They work endlessly, tirelessly, and yet it doesn't amount to much, which is one of the great shames of the society in general. And the geographer, who does not travel, but takes the word of other explorers. So he's intrigued by things like that of the Little Prince.
yeah, those lampoons I thought were pretty good. You know, the one about the king I liked, right? Because, like, you know, he's obsessed with control, but then at the same time, right, the control that he feels is illusory, right? Like, I mean, he doesn't control when the sun comes up. He says, well, I'll do it, but I have to command it to do it at this particular time in the morning in order for the sun to follow my commands and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because he wants the sunrise or sunset or whatever.
Yeah, but he only has... That's something that no individual really has the ability to do.
But he claimed to have that authority, but he can only do it at, you know, at a certain point.
Yeah, he can only do it when it's actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And he can only... He said that he really doesn't want to... He doesn't want to make his demands too impossible, but yet he wants to be able to have control in some capacity.
Yeah, he wants to keep on to that feeling that it's him that's doing it.
That's funny. You had both said that because when I read it, I interpreted it with like a more rosy lens, where I thought it was sweet when the king, the ruler, whatever his title was, talked about he would never like expect something that's like an unreasonable act. So he talked about like something that was like preposterous, like asking someone to become a teapot, and it's like, if the person didn't become a teapot, whose fault would it be? And it would be the king's for asking. So I was like, oh, that's such a nice concept. If only everyone was like that. But then I also see the side he would say, like, can I sit down? And I thought he was kind of like, oh, yes, I command you to sit down. So I took it as like a banter. But I also, that's just like, it's funny that we saw something so different out of it. But then as you say, I'm like, well, he did kind of he did want to tell him what to do a lot. But I thought they were like joking. But I don't know what it really is. It's funny.
Yeah.
We saw it differently.
No, I thought that you had a good point there, though, too. I had forgotten about, you know, how he talked about being fair, you know, about, like, whose fault would it be? You know, but it's all interesting, right? Because it kind of plays into the illusion, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't, it is impossible, and that's why you don't ask.
And then
because it's not really your authority.
You have the whole Little Prince, his interaction with the flower, and with the the way that the Little Prince actually, he feels that he had a sense of purpose where he was, even though he decided to leave it and go about visiting the other asteroids and then coming to Earth. But it's some sort of epiphany. But on the other hand, probably the strongest message that he gets on Earth is from the fox. It just the way the whole thing, the fox is secret. He's going to spend time with him, and that it's best to be right on time, as you promised. His interaction with the rose and how that really doesn't amount to much. He puts a lot into it, but it's only an exterior relationship. But the message, that the secret, I made sure that I wrote it down. The fact that it is only with the heart that one can see rightly, and what is essential is invisible to the eye. Which, quite something. I think it's a very strong moral to incorporate.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I was actually listening to it today at work. So I was working and I had it playing, so my coworkers were also listening to it. But I was just giggling, thinking about right before that. I think the fox talks about being tamed and like defining as like being tamed is something relational, like how he loved his rose. His rose was his. It was like the fact that you kind of belonged to someone. And I like that it wasn't like a typical romance, like how today we think of love just like romantic love, and there's so many different types of love. So I feel like he really had a love with his flower, and the fox just wanted to have like love him too, like to be his fox and have him be his person. And I just thought it was really neat, and kind of I just liked it particular when he talked about, like, I think the little prince's hair was blonde, and he talked about the wheat fields, and just how every time he looked at the wheat fields he'd think of the prince, and like all those things that are like, when you look at wheat fields, there's nothing about wheat fields that are emotional. Like, it's just wheat. If you can't have gluten, it's not fun at all. But to this person, like, the wheat reminded him of this little boy, and it just invisible to the eye. Like, you can't see a little boy in the wheat. That would be so strange.
As per the cover, he does have blonde hair.
I guess wheat could be that yellow, but
It depends. I see it as a much like a gold.
Me too.
A rusty gold.
So did Van Gogh. So.
But I guess that's what matters. But I would say that the fact that only with the heart can one see rightly is a very youth-based instinct that I think that's an ongoing theme. But the topics and themes are somewhat absurd in this work, that it's something that's really worth thinking about. But I personally think that it's much better. I think that as an adult, I appreciate the absurdity a little bit more. I think as a younger reader, I would have been very confused and bored. It wouldn't have really gotten to me, and I don't think it would really. I think younger readers would have difficulty getting the hang of this.
Unless they laughed.
Does anybody remember the cartoon show?
What one?
The recent one, or the...
No.
There's a recent Netflix one from the past couple of years.
No, it was older.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It was subtitled. You remember that? It's like, I guess it was French, probably. You should go around to different asteroids. It was weird. That's all I remember. I never liked it, but it was on all the time.
It's definitely a weird story. I don't know, I like it though. I work with preschoolers, so I hear a lot of absurd things, but the more time I spend with like younger minds, just how they see things, the more I just like love their view. And they're all different, right? But just like reminding me of that like youthfulness, innocence, and just like a way of seeing that, I think. Like the absurdities, I feel like we use absurd because like we're an adult, so we have like responsibilities and like things to do. But when you're young, like your responsibility is like loving your doll. You know, like that is your responsibility.
Yeah, and some of them are just society has created them. Humans themselves created them for themselves.
Like all the asteroid people and the roles that we take.
Yeah, I
like
think
the counter or the
the roles that they and why they take these roles. Granted, the alcoholic is upset with himself because he put himself in the position.
But they never have to be, right? Like, I feel like any of those people could at any point choose to, like, see things like the Little Prince because they all met him. You know, it could have been changed if they want. And they could still, we don't know for sure that they didn't, like, have an inspiration. Like, the book doesn't really lead to that, but if it was a real person, you never know if, like, years later they had an epiphany and they wanted to see different.
It seems like they're merely examples.
Yeah.
I think that was the intent of their character. But I think that, what was it? Yeah, the only one he really feels a sense of thought for or feeling for is the lamplighter. Everybody else he thinks is ridiculous.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And the thing that he seems to admire is the loyalty, right? The fact that he's one that to keep doing it, even though it doesn't seem necessarily to have a point, but he's still loyal to
Mm-hmm.
to it. He responds to that positively.
And then the whole idea, the first person narrator that you only really see at the beginning and end of the book.
The pilot.
The pilot, yeah, he's. I feel that he's a bit. Granted, I don't think he's supposed to be a very solid character. He's very flat, but I think he's only there. I think it's far more about the Little Prince than it is about the pilot and what he's trying to get from him, because the Little Prince is trying to get something out of Earth, and but it's an interesting exploration. Do we have any final thoughts?
Ooh, final thoughts. I like this book so much. I'll try to think of one final thought. Actually, can someone else go? I want to think of a final thought. I'm not ready.
Do you have one, Larry?
Oh, gee. My final thought is, what happened at the end? What was that? Did the kid die?
I didn't know. Sad. Where does he go to the star?
Yeah, he falls over.
Yeah.
He falls
it's the
gently
sand.
as a tree falls. I'm not sure. I was very confused listening to this at work.
Yeah, it was a very vague ending.
Because he talks to the snake, and then the pilot doesn't know what he says, and then he just slowly kind of goes.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanted your opinion. I don't want an official answer.
I felt like he either could have maybe gone to some form of like heaven, which placed him back with his rose, because he like had this moment where he wanted his rose back, or maybe he passed away. But it seems strange because it was through the snake, and the snake liked him at first. Like the snake thought, like, I could have bitten you, but I chose not to. So why would the snake change his mind? You know, it would seem weird because the snake, although the snake is a snake, the snake like literally said like, I like you, and then it would be weird unless the boy asked him to, because you don't know what the boy says.
Yeah, there's something
It's a
strange
mystery.
there. Yeah, there is an element of mystery to this.
Yeah,
story,
I would say so.
especially with the snake.
Was
The only other point that I want to say was like, when he said and then he fell. I was expecting the next word to be up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like he just went, shot
He
straight
went
back
back
up to the asteroid, but no, he fell down. So I don't know what's going on. It's a little strange.
Okay.
That's all I'll say about it. That's all.
Okay.
I don't know. That's why I say I don't know what I think of this story, because I don't know what's happening at the end.
Fair.
And did you say what you wanted to say? Or?
No, I'll say it now. I can't pick one thing because I just really like this story, but I think I just really like, even though I know the Little Prince is not a real person, it was like fun to see how he saw it. And one of my favorite quotes is not by Brendan Manning, but I like his books, and he references a lot of different kind of like spiritual things, and it's like a Latin phrase. I can't say it in Latin, which is cool. You should look it up. It's like, hey, credo something. It's cool. You should look it up. But the phrase is, I believe because it's absurd. And I think that's what I like about this story, is like it is so absurd, but just his way of seeing and kind of like looking at the people on the asteroids. I could kind of picture my nephew, he's 5, and just kind of laughing at the person counting stars and like laughing at the things that they do because they seem so silly. And I kind of want to laugh at the things I do that are silly, that like have roots and like ideas that I feel like I need to be, or I need to be good enough, when really like he's like enjoying a glass of water, or he just like loves his fox, and I just like I want to be absurd too, I like the prince.
Yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense.
Thanks.
As far as I think that absurdity, I see Alice's Adventures in Wonderland through the Looking Glass as being the champion of absurdity in prose for younger readers, but I also think that it really appeals to adults as well, as far as the message and the not taking life seriously is concerned. But how would we rate this? 0 to 5 stars, half stars permitted, Larry?
I'm gonna go right down the middle. I'm gonna go 3.5. I'll go 3.5. It kept me interested. A little more mystery than I'm comfortable with. So that's why I'll take a 1.5 off for that. But otherwise, I liked it. It was it holds your interest in and it makes some interesting points, I think. So I go 3.5.
Sure.
Definitely a 6.
Another 6.
Another 6.
Big-
I think this is a great story. I think it's really important.
Yeah, okay.
Give a lot of 6s. I think stories. I think it's deserving.
I'll show you 5.
The way that reviews
Can't
are,
limit
first,
me.
ratings
It's quite
are in
absurd.
the eye of the reviewer. So, I was originally thinking about 3.5, but I had bumped it up to 4 because I like the clever messages about what is meaningful in life and the complexities of being an adult and some things that they could possibly improve on, the different kinds of, because the people that he came across were all different kinds of what people become, and you don't have to follow that path. You can become what you feel you want to become, and we shouldn't discourage people from exploring their limitation, they shouldn't be bounded too extremely, and they should be able to, as far as they're not hurting themselves or anybody else, they should have the ability to express themselves in any which way and not have to conform to any given lifestyle, be it mindlessly ruling just for ruling, or becoming an alcoholic, or becoming a businessman just for the sake of making profit, or a geographer just for the sake and not for the passion, or just taking a median job like turning a light on and off just to make their way. So that's where I stand. If you're interested in checking out The Little Prince, here is a copy of the book. It is very small. I got this from the Book Garden for $1. And be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.